Hello, everyone. This is Jim Lucy, Editor-in-Chief for Electrical Wholesaling and Electrical Marketing, with episode number 109 of today's Electrical Economy podcast series sponsored by Champion Fiberglass. Champion began producing epoxy fiberglass conduit and fittings in 1988, and in 1989 developed the first conduit from epoxy resins that had flame resistance and low smoke characteristics. This met the most stringent codes and specifications. This episode will cover the local markets that added the most electrical contractor and industrial employees, which will increase their market potential by most in these two key markets. We'll also be taking a look at the first of the 9 regions we'll be covering in Electrical Wholesaling Market Planning Guide, the fast-growing South Atlantic region. As usual, we'll also be tracking 5 key weekly economic indicators: initial unemployment claims at the state level, rail freight car traffic, the Baker Hughes rate count, oil prices, and copper prices. And we'd like to thanks again to the folks from Champion Fiberglass for sponsoring this series over the past several years. For the week ending November the 23rd, the advanced figure for seasonally adjusted initial unemployment claims was 213,000, a decrease of 2,000 from the previous week's revised level. The 4-week moving average was 217,000, a decrease of 1,250 from last week. The U.S. unemployment rate for November is 4.1%, and that is unchanged from October. It was a super quiet week for decreases in unemployment claims, with no market seeing a decrease of at least 1,000 claims, and only New Jersey with a decrease of 965 claims, and South Carolina, the decrease of 510 claims, seeing decrease of more than 500. The top 10 states with a decrease in the claims were, as mentioned, New Jersey, South Carolina, Florida, Delaware, Mississippi, Maryland, Oklahoma, West Virginia, Hawaii, and Tennessee. These other states all were less than 200 claim decreases. On the flip side, we did have a number of states with some pretty dramatic increases in unemployment claims, and in fact had 11 markets with increases of at least 1,000. These 11 markets are California, which was up 4,974. Illinois was up 2,924. Pennsylvania was up to 2,758 claims. Michigan saw its claims increase from 1,994. Its claims now stand at 9,711. Georgia was up 1,927 claims, now standing at 5,612. Minnesota up 1,791 claims, now standing at 8,334. New York was up 1,725 claims to 16,571. Ohio was up 1,446, now standing 8,111. Oregon up 1,400 claims, now standing at 5,584. Texas up 1,123, now at 16,547, and Iowa up 1,100, now 3,326. If these claims increases continue throughout the next couple of months, we may have a pattern to be concerned about, but they're pretty cyclical and they do tend to go up and down each week a fair amount, but we'll be watching it closely. One of the most interesting leading indicators for the overall U.S. economy is freight rail traffic. It's a measure of the amount of raw materials and finished goods being shipped by rail. The best source for this data is the American Association of Railroads, or AAR. It publishes this data weekly. November the 23rd, total U.S. weekly rail traffic was 520,798 carloads and intermodal. This is up 25.6% compared with the same week last year. That number and increase, I should think that is a little bit off because of the Thanksgiving holiday of last year when it was pretty dramatically down, but we did have a late Thanksgiving this year. Total combined U.S. traffic for the first 47 weeks of 2024 was 22,778,552 carloads and intermodal, and that is an increase of 3.6% compared with this time last year, which is quite healthy. When you drill down to the specific categories of freight being transported, you will find that petroleum and petroleum products were up 10.5% over where they had been at this time last year. Second were both intermodal units and grain, both up 9.5% compared to this time last year. On the downside, coal was once again the leader. It was off 13.8%, and non-metallic minerals showed the next biggest decline at 6.1% decrease. If you track the oil market, you're probably familiar with the Baker Hughes rig count, which tracks the oil and gas rigs that are operating. This data is available by state, by basin, and nationally at www.rigcount.bakerhughes.com. This slide gives you a good idea of the largest oil and gas deposits. It really gives you a good sense of just how many of the large oil plays are in Texas and Oklahoma, and how big an area the Marcellus gas region covers in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and parts of West Virginia. The Baker Hughes rig count showed next to no change in activity in the most recent data. Total rigs are at 582, that is down one, and they are still down a fairly healthy amount, down 43 rigs compared to this time last year. The year-over-year percentage continues to decline little by little, and it is down 6.9% compared to this time last year. On a state basis, the only state among the leaders was Wyoming, down one rig, and no other state had any other change really. Texas, as usual, the biggest with 281 rigs operating. They're down 25 rigs or 8.2% compared to last year. In Texas, Permian Basin also covering a little bit of New Mexico, I believe, 303 operating rigs. That's no change compared to the most recent week. And it's down 11 rigs from last year, down just 3.5%. So it is seeing some improvement. The Eagle Ford region also covering Texas and New Mexico, a much smaller basin, but still very notable compared to anything else in the U.S. 48 rigs operating. That's down 2 compared to where it was last year, and it is down 4% year over year. The West Texas Intermediate crude oil prices were down again slightly, and they've spent most of November below $70 per barrel. As you can see on the chart, you can see where it has spent a little time over $80 a barrel. Hasn't been up in that area since about the earliest part of August, I believe. And it has really, for the most part, been above $70 a barrel, although in the past week or so it has spent a little time below that. So it's still in a relatively healthy territory, but it's not been a little while since it's seen that $80 mark. Economists like to call copper pricing Dr. Copper because it's the leading indicator for future economic activity, since copper is used in so many industries. The construction industry is among the leading markets because of its widespread use in wire and cable and copper plumbing pipe. The current price of copper is $4.14 per pound. That's a little bit under its average price, which is about $4.24 a pound. It's still healthy over that $4 mark. It hasn't touched $5 a mark about mid-year, and it is in sort of the lower end of the range where it's been over the past couple of months. But I think most copperheads would say it's still in a pretty healthy channel right now. I just posted the 2025 Market Planning Guide on Electrical Wholesaling's website, and I wanted to share with you a few interesting data points that came up. But two of the things that caught my eye were the MSAs with the largest increases in industrial electrical contractor potential over the last year. I also want to give you a breakout of the fastest growing metros in one of the fastest growing regions, the South Atlantic. The South Atlantic region covers a huge part of the Southeast, from the sprawling metropolis of Baltimore and Washington, all that data center business west of D.C., down through Virginia and the busy shipyards of Newport News and Norfolk, and on through to the Carolinas, also for such a fast-growing and many of their major metros there. Going a little bit further south, you've got the booming Atlanta metro, and then on to Florida, which is growing as fast or faster than any other state, depending on the metrics you use. We will be looking at one of the regions over the next few podcasts, but I thought I would start with the South Atlantic because it's growing so fast. Let's first take a look at the industrial market and the MSAs that had the largest increases in industrial employment. When you figure that each new industrial employee brings with them 2,650 in new industrial market potential, according to electrical wholesaling sales per employee estimates, you can see why any dramatic change in industrial employment affects the potential industrial sales. For instance, the Chicago metropolitan area, through September of this year, grew year over year by 8,533 employees. That's according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. When you use EW's multiplier of $2,650 per industrial employee, that's an additional 22.6 million in additional industrial potential. The other large markets that saw some significant changes in industrial employment and therefore in industrial market potential were Dallas, which was up 1,667 employees. Houston market up 4,767 employees. Seattle saw a nice increase of 3,400 employees. San Antonio metro up 2,667 employees. Salt Lake City up 2,000 employees. The Washington, D.C. metro up 1,967 employees. Nashville up 1,900 employees. And the Las Vegas up 1,867 employees. And St. Louis up 1,833 employees. So we can see that all these metros growing at a pretty healthy rate percent-wise, with the exception of St. Louis, not a total Year-over-year change, not all that much, but we had Las Vegas up at 6.2%, which is quite active. If you're watching this on the video version of the podcast, you can see the slide in the upper right-hand corner. That is a map, some new mapping technology that I've used that is on the site where you can click on any of the bubbles on the site. The larger the bubble, the higher the employment, but it kind of gives you an idea where the higher industrial employment areas are on the map. And I use this type of mapping technology for industrial employment, contractor employment, population increases, and building increases. So I'd like to hear what you think of that. It's called Data Wrapper. It's a free on technology. It comes out of Germany apparently, but you can see it in a lot of the major magazines and newspapers. I thought I'd give it a shot for electrical wholesaling, and I'm delighted with how easy it is to use and really how well it creates infographics that we can use. Let's check in on the metros with the largest increases in electrical contractor employment. You're going to recognize a bunch of the metros at the top of the list here in electrical contractor employment increases. We have mentioned them in past podcasts as some of the fastest growing markets in total electrical potential. That's because electrical contractor potential is such an important element for most electrical distributors and the market as a whole. And in fact, our estimates in electrical wholesaling state electrical contractor sales account for about 50% of the total market. You'll also quickly notice some familiar fast-growing states on this here, which is Texas and Florida. Look at Houston's electrical contractor market. It's growing at an incredible rate. And with an estimated 1,911 additional electrical contractor employees through September, and our electrical wholesaling, electrical contractor multiplier of $78,775 per new employee, its market potential will be $150 million. Then we'll take a look at some of the other fast-growing markets that added the most employees over the past year. We have the Miami Metro added 1,751 employees, Dallas 1,196 employees, Las Vegas up 1,083 employees, Detroit up 1,036 employees. This is a smaller piece of the Miami market. It actually was 832 employees that grew. Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 784 employees. And I'm guessing with Baton Rouge, it's going to be some large chemical projects in that area. The Orlando market up 689 employees. Austin Round Rock up 611 employees. And Honolulu up 589 employees. Now let's take a look at the South Atlantic region, and in specific, take a look at some of the markets that are growing the fastest over the past year in total electrical market potential. As you can see on the map, and we mentioned a little bit earlier, it's a big geographic area in the Southeast, and it covers all the way in its northern elements there, from the Washington, D.C. and Baltimore area down to Virginia, Carolinas. You've got, obviously in North Carolina, you've got fast-growing markets like Charlotte and Raleigh. You've got Wilmington, Greensboro. South Carolina's had an awful lot of growth. Charleston for sure. Greenville growing fast. Georgia, Atlanta's been one of the fastest growing markets in the country for the last couple of decades. And of course, Florida, which is adding hundreds of new residents each day, and it's just growing like crazy. And when you look at some the specific markets that are growing the fastest, you might see a few surprises there. And one of the big ones that we did see, the Virginia Beach market, so I saw a nice increase there, 8.2, and these are all the fastest growing on a percent basis. Virginia Beach was up 8.6%. I'd have to guess with Virginia Beach, with all the military contracts, government work down there in the shipyards around Newport News and Norfolk, it's going to be a bit of it going in there. Miami market has a totally different profile, number 2 on our list there. A lot of residential, a lot of multifamily residential specifically in this Miami market, I think would account for a lot of the construction there. Charleston metro area, that's just a fast-growing residential market there. If any of you had a chance to spend any time down in Charleston, just a real jewel of an area. There's some beautiful coast along there, the islands along there. Just one of my sons lived there for about 5 years, and it was just a delight to go and visit down there. One of the smaller markets in Florida, up in the Panhandle there, showing some 7% growth, and that's Crestview, Fort Walton, and Destin, Florida. Richmond, Virginia came up a couple of times. There's some large commercial projects down there, and that's up 6.9%. Port St. Lucie, Florida's East Coast, up 6.5%. The Cape Coral, Fort Myers area down southwest Florida, up 6.2%. That's a perennial fast-growing area there. Always seems to be a lot of single-family construction going on there. Unfortunately, some of it is the rebuilding of the homes destroyed by the hurricane a couple of years ago. Just contiguous and just south of there, the Naples, Mark Weiland area, up 6%. and right near there too. Northport, Sarasota, Bradenton up 5.7%. And that's kind of interesting when you see where these the 7, 8, and 9 ranked markets, they're all contiguous along Florida's southwest coast, and that southwest coast has just been growing like crazy over the last decade, and probably even more. And I mentioned South Carolina is a fast-growing state, and Greenville is a pretty town in the northwest area of the state there. So I think it might be, excuse me, just what I'd say is it's really closer to the North Carolina border there. But very, very pretty town, very much in the auto belt there. I know BMW has got a big plant. Had a chance to visit the Greenville several times. I guess most recently when Hubble had their new lighting office opened up there. They put on a nice event down there and enjoyed getting a chance to explore around the area a little bit. Well, that wraps up our podcast for today. I'd like to thank the folks from Champion Fiberglass for sponsoring us again. This is our 109th podcast and over the past 4 years, and we truly appreciate the support they've given us. If you have any questions on any of the data that we talked about here today, you can give me a call directly at 913-461-7679 or give me an email at jlucy@endeavorb2b.com. If you need any in-depth statistics that are updated that we update quarterly on electrical marketing newsletters, a $99 subscription, we're giving you a pretty good sneak preview of what's available in electrical marketing through this our market planning guide. But over the course of the year, you're going to need to update those market stats, and electrical marketing is a good bargain for you there. Our next podcast will be on December the 16th. Along with getting into some other data, we'll be looking at our next regional market, which will be the New England market. So we're going to be going each podcast. We'll be hitting a different regional market over the next couple of months. So until then, be happy, healthy. Look forward to talking with you in 2 weeks.